With all due respect, that's a bunch of malarkey. This is a bunch of stuff, deal.
What does that mean, a bunch of stuff?
Well, it means it's simply inaccurate.
It's Irish.
It's Irish. It is. We Irish call it malarkey.
Thanks for the translation.
No,
Okay.
We Irish call it malarkey.
You know what this is? Yeah, and I reserve this word for those rare instances when it's truly deserved. This is malarkey.
That's a bunch of malarkey.
From the King Spring Studios here in Smyrna, Georgia, this is A Bunch of Malarkey. I'm your host, Charlie McMahon. Thank you so much for joining us once again. For our first-time listeners, welcome aboard. For those rejoining us, we can't thank you enough for your continued support and for spreading the word to your friends and family on Facebook and other various social media platforms. So thank you very much. Coming off another weekend, can you believe we are halfway through September already, folks? I feel like I was just talking to you guys about it turning from August to September and the pumpkin spice bullshit that started up again. But we're thick in the middle of pumpkin spice season here. And halfway through September, second week of football already over. Can you believe this? How fast time flies? Before you know it, we will be singing Christmas carols. Well, believe it or not, that's where I want to start today. So this weekend was, I guess, kind of eventful. We went out to dinner with some friends on Saturday night, followed by a 40th birthday party. But good portion of the weekend, especially Friday, and especially on Friday, we spent going to various different stores. So Costco's my favorite. In case you don't know me personally, if they said you can spend $10,000 on us in any store, I would head to Costco. I mean, I just love Costco for the variety of items they sell. Not just the food, but all these different gadgets and I love it. I love going into Costco. So whenever I can get to Costco, I go. So we needed to go there for a few things on Friday. And now we like to go when it first opens because you go there in the middle of the day, it's hell. You know, you're avoiding people stopping in the middle of the aisles for samples. You know those samples. People go there, they make a whole day out of it. You know, oh, forget, they leave their office. Why pay for lunch? We'll just go to Costco and we'll sample all the things they have, food and drink. We'll make 10 laps around the store. So besides that, I love Costco. But when we walked in on Friday, we were greeted by Christmas trees already. Now, I absolutely love the holiday season. From Thanksgiving to Christmas is probably my favorite time of the year. And I'm kind of an early decorator. I usually put the tree up the Friday after Thanksgiving. And I just love that season, that whole month. You know, like Christmas Day itself is kind of anticlimactic. Christmas Eve is like the holiday for me. It always was growing up. The big day was Christmas Eve. But the whole season, I love watching Christmas movies, having little gatherings and that kind of stuff. But folks, I'm not ready to think about it when it's 92 degrees outside in the middle of September when everybody's walking around in shorts, drinking pumpkin spice frappuccinos. So we walk in and there's Christmas trees, but Christmas trees next to Halloween goods, costumes, and decorations, and the leftover remnants of the patio furniture season. And even in Big Lots, you walk in there right now, if you came out of a coma, like, you know, you were hit by a car 6 months ago and you just came out of the coma and somebody wheeled you into Big Lots, you would have no idea what time of the year it is. You got leftover lawn furniture, you've got back-to-school stuff, Halloween costumes, fall decorations, Christmas trees up. You don't know where the hell you are. So I understand that they have to maximize their, selling and everything, but who's buying Christmas shit now? Unless it's on a deep discount, then I might think about it, but you only get that discount after Christmas, so I don't know why they rush things. Let's get Halloween out of the way. Then we'll transition to Thanksgiving. Let Thanksgiving have its day, and then we move on the day after Thanksgiving. If you want to call that the Christmas season, I do. Fine. But I can't be thinking about Christmas at this time of the year. But as we got to the back of Costco, because we needed a few things in the back, they had this whole island display set up of all the cookie tins and gift ideas for Christmas. Candy, boxes of, 10-pound boxes of candy to give out to the office, all those cookie tins. Now, that's where I have a weakness with those cookie tins. Now, they have like a 3-pack of butter cookies. You know what those are, folks. When you were a kid, you saw the butter cookie tin. You got excited until you opened it up and realized it was Grandma's sewing kit with all the shit in there. So you know the one I'm talking about, the blue Danish cookie tin. They had like 3 packs of those. But they have a tin of cookies. If you haven't tried them, I shouldn't give you this bad advice. They're called Kirkland European cookies. They're in a red, big, giant, rectangular tin. There's like 3.5 pounds of cookies in there. And I've made the mistake the last few years of buying that tin. Now, the household is just my wife and I. She's vegan. She doesn't eat those cookies because there's milk, chocolate, and milk product in the cookie. So every year, I buy that 3-pound container of those European cookies. And I feel ashamed of myself for doing it. The shame usually sets in when the first layer is gone because there's 2 layers and they're cellophane wrapped. Each layer is like 1.5 pounds. Usually the shame will kick in after the first 1.5 pounds is gone, which usually takes about 4 nights for me because this is something I don't understand, folks. My wife is the type of person that can go to the pantry, take a cookie, or maybe 2, and walk away, shut the pantry, have the cookie, and move on with her life. I've never been like that. I've got to sit the tray on my lap and work it until... See, I have a formula now at my age. I figure out, based on my weight, my current health condition, and a few other variables, how many cookies it will take to actually kill me. And then I take 1 or 2 off that, and that's the amount of cookies I eat. So that's kind of like my formula. But I'll put those cookies on my lap, and I'll just work through them. And then usually after the first 1.5 pounds is gone, and I feel fully ashamed of myself. And I got to say, I'm usually watching like The Biggest Loser while I'm eating this 1.5 pounds of cookies, or I'll pass a Bowflex infomercial, and I'll sit and watch it as I'm eating the 1.5 pounds of cookies and say, shit, if I start on Monday, a couple of weeks I could look like this guy. So that's my thought process. But so these cookies, after I get through the first 1.5 pounds, I usually, on a good year, I'll say to my wife, you know what, take this other 1.5 pounds that is still wrapped and put them on your break room table at work because I don't want to continue with this insanity. As my heart's palpitating, I feel like my veins, my arteries closing up from all the cholesterol. That's when I usually say, all right, I've had enough. And I give them to her. Because you know what I've said before, folks. You put anything on a break room table and people will devour it. It doesn't matter what it is. I've given my wife such crazy shit, and then I'll say, text me when it's gone. And it'll be like something that you would think people would only eat in the afternoon. You know, it's not like a breakfast item. And she'll text me at like 9:45, all gone. You could put anything on a break room table and people will eat it. I worked with somebody, just to veer off for a second, at a pharmaceutical company. Nice girl. I still keep in touch with her on Facebook. She went to culinary school. And on the weekends, she would go to these classes. And occasionally, one of her culinary projects would fail. It wouldn't come out right. So she was trying to make, I believe one time it was like a grasshopper cake. You know, a grasshopper, I think it's that minty green with the cream in the middle. I don't know what it was, but it turned into like a soup. It didn't take the shape, so it was like a green and white goop in a bowl. She put it out on the break room table, and I shit you not, people were scooping ladlefuls of this shit into bowls, walking around the office eating this failed grasshopper experiment. So, folks, you can put anything on the break room table. You want to clean out your pantry tonight, put a can of refried beans on the break room table. People will ask where the tortilla chips are. You can put anything out. So that's usually what I do when the guilt sets in. But I have to say, I did pass that truck tire size pumpkin pie. They're already out for $5.99, and I walked past. I was very good. The only thing I got was a big bag of popcorn, which was organic and everything else. So the last 2 years, I mean, I was an avid runner for so many years, running 8-10 miles a day, 5 days a week. And the last couple of years, because of that parking lot job, I got lazy. So I'm trying to get back on track. So I really had to have willpower. But this is how I grew up. There was no such thing as portion size growing up. We didn't have portions. My mother would make 5 pounds of chicken cutlets for 5 people, 10 pounds of potato, and there was no leftovers. We ate and ate and ate, and it's amazing that we all don't have medical problems or aren't all obese or overweight at now. Because we just ate. Even when my sister left the house, and my dad didn't like pizza, so he would get something else. For my brother, my mother, and I, we'd order 2 pies, 2 pizzas, and it would all go. There might be a couple of slices left over, but this is what we did. This is why I'm the way I am today with portions. I don't know what a portion is. So when I was a kid, I thought that was the norm, eating 2 pounds of pasta for 4 or 5 people. I thought that was normal. My mother would buy, those giant watermelons that are in the bins, like the full-sized, uncut watermelons, the giant ones. My mother would just take a big knife and cut that in 4. My dad didn't care for fruit too much. My brother, my sister, her and me, we would eat the whole watermelon in one sitting. I went to a barbecue. Kid down the block, I must have been 10, 11 years old. They said, we're going to have watermelon now. So I'm expecting the mother to come out with the big machete, the Crocodile Dundee knife like my mom had to cut the watermelon. And we were all going to get a big slab of it. They gave me a piece so thin it was like transparent where I could see through it. And I said, I guess this is how regular people eat watermelon. They don't cut a big watermelon into 4 pieces and call it a portion. So this dates back, I guess it's the Italian side of the family. It was just always eat, eat, eat. It was always so much food that 10 people could show up on any given night, and there was plenty to go around. So I still have a problem with portions. So I controlled myself. I didn't get the European cookies, but it is only September. So who knows what's going to happen the next time I head into Costco. But folks, it's September. We can't be doing Christmas yet. I mean, and I love Christmas, but and every year I drive my wife crazy. I mean, she likes Christmas, but I'm the guy who wants to decorate and do all this stuff. I want all these lasers pointing at the house and big statues of nutcrackers by the fireplace. And every year I try to add 1 or 2 new pieces, but she usually tries to make me get rid of something old in order for me to get something new. And we have the storage space for it, so it's not like it's in the way, but she doesn't like to have all that clutter and extra stuff. So usually I have to make deals leading up to Christmas that I'll get rid of something in order to get something new. So, but I'm not ready yet. Even me, who's a Christmas nut, I'm not ready to bring any light up Santas or nutcrackers home while it's 90 degrees. I'm in shorts and we're drinking pumpkin spice frappuccinos. But also, you go into the supermarket, speaking of, Kroger aside, you go into the local supermarket. Now, we have Publix and Kroger and Sprouts and a lot of different chains here. And I want to preface this first, because nowadays you can't be funny. You kind of have to explain your position on things and be politically correct and all that. So I'm going to explain my position on this before people get all testy. And I was a retail manager for years, and we had a program in many of the companies where we hired people with autism, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, and they were some of the best employees I ever had. Excellent workers, conscientious, never had an issue with anyone, any of them. But now in the supermarkets around here, they have the similar programs where they're hiring people with disabilities to do various different jobs in the stores, which I think is, again, absolutely great. Love it. And I even saw a segment on, I believe it was CBS Sunday Morning, about a new corporate program sweeping the country where they're hiring young adults and adults on the autism spectrum, and they're thriving in these jobs. They have mentors, and they're doing absolutely great. And I actually was almost in tears watching this segment, so I love it. But where it gets a little dicey is when I go to, we normally don't shop for our groceries. We do, like I mentioned before, we do this click list where we go online and we pick out what we want and make a cart and check out, and then we pull into a parking spot. I shouldn't say we, my wife does. And then they bring out the groceries to the trunk, and she comes home with them. But every once in a while, we need things that they were out of. We have to go to another store. And when I get to the checkout, or my wife gets to the checkout, in one particular chain, there's usually, the bagger is usually someone on that Persons with Disabilities program. And I really can't blame them. I don't know if it's the store that's not training right, but 9 times out of 10, they'll put like the eggs and the bread on the bottom of the bag and then throw all the cans on top of it. And every time we get home, we have broken eggs, bread that's flat as a pancake. And I said to my wife, if it was just a person that didn't have disabilities and we watched them do that, we would be saying, hey, what the fuck are you doing to my bread and my eggs? But when it's someone in a program like that, you can't be an asshole and say in front of everybody, you can't say anything. So you kind of have to sit there and bite your tongue as you're seeing your eggs being broken, your bread being crushed, and there's nothing you can do about it. You don't want to be that guy. And I've a couple of times tried to nudge my way over and try to assist, or say, oh, no, I'll take care of the bread and the eggs. But I found out that some of the individuals are very territorial and take very much pride in their job, and they don't want you touching anything. They want to do it, and you're not going to get into a back and forth with someone, so you kind of have to just let it be and hope for the best when you get home. But like I said, 9 out of 10 times you get home, and your bread's all fucked up, your eggs are broken. So what do you do, folks? What would you do in that situation? Do you just sit there? You know, you try to, like, ease your way in to help, or you tell the cashier, I'll bag my own, but they don't let you. They're like, no, that's what he's here for. So you're in, like, a catch-22, so there's nothing you can do. So I don't want to seem like an asshole, but this is something that I've noticed, a trend, where I think the store is at fault over anybody that really need to retrain their employees at the bagging stand. So this is what I'm up against at the supermarket. But what's also a sweeping trend I've noticed over the last few years, and it's not just in supermarkets, but you go to department stores, you go to Kohl's, you go anywhere, and when you get to the checkout, they ask you, do you want to donate to kids with cancer today? So they put you on the spot, and there's everybody behind you watching, and you're going to say, nah, I really don't want to give kids with cancer any money today. And you kind of, or if you don't want to, you just go, oh, no, not today. And they'll go, what'd you say? Not today. Oh, you don't want to donate today? So they make you feel like an asshole at the checkout stand because you don't want to, let us choose where we want to donate our money. You got a guy ringing a bell outside any day now. He's going to be panhandling money outside, ringing that bell, which who carries change or cash anymore? Everybody's debiting and crediting everything. So you walk by that guy. He looks at you like, look at this cheap fuck passing by. Doesn't even want to throw a nickel into the can. I don't carry cash anymore unless I really know I'm going to a place that requires cash. If I'm going to a concert and I know we have to pay for parking and they only take cash, then I make sure I have the cash. But on an average day, I'm walking with the debit card. And they ring the bell and they want to know why you're not giving, or if there's a kid selling something outside and they don't have a swiper, they only take cash, and then you look like an asshole. So everywhere you go, somebody wants something from you. At the checkout stand, outside, you can't win. This is why I stay home. Anyway, so that's my rant about Christmas in September, Costco, baggers, cashiers asking you for charitable donations, and things of that nature. So that's where we stand. So I wanted to transition today to basically our theme here. Now, over the years, we've seen, especially if you're on social media, all these different challenges that are online now. Everybody's got a challenge. The ice bucket challenge, which supposedly the money was supposed to go to ALS, and then we found out later that only a small percentage of that money actually made it to research and stuff. And that was a good challenge. You don't see too many good challenges on social media. It's always some idiot coming up with something, and just to get fame and the most views and likes. Like, let's put a tablespoon of cinnamon in our mouth and put it on YouTube and see how many likes we can get. The cinnamon challenge. Now there's a hot pepper challenge where you find the world's hottest pepper, and these girls eat it, and then one's throwing up, one's screaming, they're pouring milk in their mouth. Again, they're not getting anything for it, but people laughing at them online. The Tide Pods, which we all know about, kids eating laundry detergent for likes and views on Facebook and social media, Snapchat, whatever they're doing it on. Snorting condoms up their nose. Kylie lip challenge where they're suction cupping a shot glass so their lips get big, like this Kylie, whoever the hell she is, no-name celebrity here, got famous for no reason. And then their lips get all big and they're breaking like capillaries in their lips. Now they're doing it for 2 minutes of fame, a few likes. Now, I used to do these dares, but this was before the internet and cameras. But we used to do shit for money. Our friends would say they had a $10 bill in their pocket. We were online at, say, Six Flags. And they'd pick out like the biggest steroid bodybuilding guy online and say, hey, Charlie, $10. That guy standing there with his girlfriend, go up and lick his Italian ice for $10. And then we decide whether we want to do it or not, if we were going to get our ass kicked. And it wasn't for fame on the internet. It was for $10 and laughs and stories to tell 30 years from now. Or we'd say, we'd be in McDonald's. $5 if you go up, or I'll buy you lunch today. If you go up to that guy there while he's eating his lunch and just take a French fry off his tray and eat it, and I'll buy you lunch today. We did it for the fun. We did it for the absolute thrill of it, and now it's all about getting the most amount of likes on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, wherever these other apps I don't even know anything about, YouTube. Folks, they're all dumb. There's not one challenge I've seen that was cool until the other day. Now, this is being called bullying and child abuse by some people. And I'm going to explain why this isn't bullying or child abuse in a minute. Let me explain the challenge. A viral magic trick seen on Netflix has people calling it child abuse. For plenty of people, growing up with siblings, or in my case, a mother or parents, means pranks had been an integral part of their childhood. Whether it be a whoopee cushion placed on your seat, or the popular ding-dong ditch, a little bit of mischief was simply harmless fun. But as time passes, these gags have evolved to be more elaborate. The reactions of the intended target have grown significantly more severe and potentially abusive. Oh, come on, people. On September 5th, David Dorbick posted a video on YouTube where he and his friend pranked his buddy's younger brother, Varden, making him believe he's become invisible. They are able to convince Varden that he's instantly become invisible, and he broke down crying. But once Dobrik and his family told the young boy it was just a prank, Varden's shock turns into amusement, and he said he couldn't wait to brag about it at school. However, Dobrik wasn't the first person to come up with this gag. In Netflix's latest show, Magic for Humans, host Justin Williams is able to convince a stranger that his magic trick has made him become invisible. Now, it's got 5.3 million views. The majority of the audience had positive feedback towards the hijinks, and some have even tried it themselves, including various different peoples online who played it on 11 and 10-year-olds and whatnot. And to make a long story short, folks, a lot of the kids are crying in the video because the parents or the brother and sister are placing the kid on a couch. They put a sheet over him. They rub their head and say abracadabra or whatever the hell you're supposed to say. And when they pull the sheet off, everybody screams and pretends they're crying and says, "What happened to Johnny? Little Johnny's gone." And Johnny's sitting there screaming, "I'm here, I'm here." And everyone's screaming, "Where did he go?" And he's punching everybody, "I'm here." And they're all pretending that he's invisible. Then the kid starts crying. And then eventually, after they get a good laugh out of it, they tell the kid, "You're really here. It was a joke." Now, people are calling this child abuse and bullying. Folks, it's not. It's a joke. What have we become? What have we become where you can't toy around? And these are usually brothers and sisters doing this to the kid. Occasionally you see a parent. I've watched a lot of these before I came on here and talked about it. So I wanted to tell you, if you think that's scarring, folks, where the kid's never going to get over it, let me tell you about a few jokes or pranks that were played on us. Me and my brother. Usually my sister wasn't a victim of these hijinks at my house. Usually my mom would play it on my brother or on me. Now, everybody remembers the movie Child's Play, where Chucky, the doll, comes to life with a big knife and stabs everybody and kills everybody and comes up with different ways to kill everybody. So I think we had rented the movie because we had everybody had a video store on the corner where when a movie came out, you ran and got the VHS tape and you had movie day with the family. So we watched Child's Play. And I wouldn't say we were scared of it, but we were kids. It was a little terrifying. So, we go to bed that night and I hear scraping under my bedroom door. I'm like, what the hell is that? I get up and I turn the light and there's a big butcher knife coming under the door. And that's my mom out there laughing, scaring me that it was Chucky. Now, that's traumatizing to a kid, not making him think he's invisible. But the best one I can remember, you talk about trauma. Now, I think this is pretty messed up, but my brother had pound puppies. I don't know if you remember these stuffed animals. If you don't, look them up. I forget who made them. I think Coleco or Hasbro. I'm not sure, but they were called pound puppies. They were dogs. Kind of like the Cabbage Patch Kids, but they came at like an adoption certificate, and you named them, and I don't know if you registered them or not. You mailed something in. I don't recall that. But my brother had like every pound puppy you could think of in all different colors and shapes, and he had names for them all, and he would play with them and make them talk. And I don't know how old he was. So I come home from school one day, and my brother and I were in different schools because I was a little bit older. So he must have still been in elementary school, and I must have been in middle school. I come home one day, and I come in, and the house is quiet. Only my mother was home, and I can't find her. I'm like, Mom, where are you? She goes, I'm in here. So she's in my brother's room, laughing. So I go, what are you doing? She had all his pound puppies hanging on the ceiling with a chair kicked over, like they jumped off the chair and hung themselves, with suicide notes for each pound puppy. So when my brother came home, all his, I know it's sick, folks, but this is like the prank household I grew up in. All his pound puppies had committed suicide and left notes to my brother that they couldn't take it anymore, this and that. Now, that's traumatizing. That's fucked up, folks. Not you're invisible for 2 minutes. That's sick. That's abuse. So I don't want to hear that your kid disappeared for 2 minutes and that's abuse. That's not abuse. That's not messed up. So there were also jokes where I was involved. My brother, I don't know what movie it was, but we all watched a movie where aliens landed. And they said it was like a real life. It was a movie about people who claimed they were abducted by aliens. And they said that when they were laying in bed, a big blue light filled their room. And this was like several people said this, that there were blue lights on the ship. And as soon as they saw the blue lights, they knew something was going to happen. So I think my brother was a little shaken up by the movie. So my mother says, oh, we got to do something with blue lights. I go, I don't have any blue lights. What are we going to do? So then I got an idea. I said, they sell blue trash bags. You know, they're very thin, transparent. I said, what if I go down to CVS and get the blue trash bags, and I'll cut it and I'll tape it to my headlights on my car, and I'll park across the street, aim the high beams at his window, and he'll think the aliens are coming to get him. Oh, yeah, good idea. So I went down and did it and parked across the street and shot the high beams up in his window. And I don't remember if he went freaked out or what happened, but I remember doing that. I don't remember what the result was, but we did things like that to traumatize each other. So I guess that could be borderline bullying, but not pulling a sheet off a kid and saying you're invisible for 2 minutes. But I grew up in a house full of pranks. My mother was the mastermind of all these pranks usually. I mean, I did some for retaliation purposes, but one night I told her I was going out, and I had a curfew. I think it was 11 o'clock. And I used to, usually try to be in on time. Occasionally I was a few minutes late, and I would try to, we had a dog, so I would sneak in and sometimes bring him something, like a piece of something to throw down the stairs so he would chew it, and, a cookie or something so he wouldn't bark and wake everybody up and they'd know I was late. So it was one particular night. I think I had to be home at 11, and it was just about 11 o'clock, and I'm getting into the house, and I'm trying to be quiet, and I'm coming up the hallway to my room, and my parents' room was across the hall, and my brother's room was next door, and I hear my mother laughing muffled. So I'm like, what the hell, is she nuts? So I turn on my bedroom light, and to go to bed, I'm tired, and my bed was gone. The headboard, the frame, the mattress, the box spring, the pillows, everything, gone. Just a big empty spot where my bed used to be. And I said, what the? And I hear her laughing in there. So I know she did it. So I'm like, where's my bed? She doesn't answer. So now I have to go at 11 o'clock at night all over the house to look for my bed. So I find, and she didn't put it all in one spot. She did it so it was like a treasure hunt. So the box spring was in one place, the mattress was in the garage, the headboard was... So there I am at 11-something at night with a toolkit putting my bed back together, because that was a practical joke. See, these are things that are like messed up. Your kid comes home, he wants to go to sleep, and now he's got to not only find his bed, but then he's got to put it back together. So this is the household... these are the household pranks that I... grew up with, but I got even with her for that. My mother used to go to work. Well, she worked all different shifts throughout my childhood, but there was a time where she would have to go in real early in the morning when it was still dark out. Her car was parked in the garage, and she would put the light on and get into a car and open the garage door and leave. So we had a blow-up skeleton from Halloween, and he had hands and feet, and it was just a blow-up skeleton. So what I did was I inflated him, and I put a jacket on him and a hat and dressed him up. And then I put a cigarette of my mom's in between his two fingers. I put one hand of his on the steering wheel, the other cigarette like held up by the window like he was smoking, positioned them all. So the next morning, my mother leaves for work, and I hear her going downstairs, and I'm just waiting for her because my room was right above the garage. And I'm waiting for her to go to work. And I hear her going down the stairs, and I hear her open the garage, flip on the light, and just let out a giant scream because she thought somebody had broken into the house and was sitting in her car. So these are the jokes that we played on one another as a child. So, everybody has a different opinion on what's abuse, what's not. Of the jokes I named from my childhood, the pound puppies was pretty messed up. I wouldn't do that to anybody. I wouldn't recommend. Don't get any ideas, folks. Don't go hanging your kids' stuffed animals and leaving suicide notes. That was a little messed up. But I wouldn't consider taking a sheet and putting it over a kid and saying he's invisible or he disappeared a form of child abuse. You know what, though? Somebody reminded me of this on Facebook. You know what's kind of child abuse at elementary school, besides giving us an Italian ice after seeing a man's privates in the woods, supposedly as a flasher? It was those civil defense drills. Those scared the shit out of me. Someone posted on my wall the other day, a girl I went to high school with named Dawn. Do you remember this? And the civil defense drill, kids today don't know what it is. Unless, I guess, you live in a tornado area where they do something if a tornado's about to hit or something like that. But we did this because in case we were involved in some sort of military conflict with Russia and they started bombing us or nuclear war was coming, they would let out this. Now, fire drill was one thing. They would ring the bell. It was like a bell. And you would go outside and wait outside and then get let back in. But the civil defense drill was like, they almost had like a siren sound, every 3 to 5 seconds. And what you'd have to do is all walk in the hallway with your hands behind your head, and then you'd have to lean against the hallways with your hands over your heads for however many minutes, and then they would let you back in the classroom after a while. And I know some kids went under their desks in different school districts and stuff. Now, that's traumatizing to a kid. I was always scared during those things. But looking back on it, if there was a real bombing or something like that, standing in the hallway with your hands over your heads, is that really something that was going to protect you from a Soviet missile coming in to the country and bombing West Islip or wherever you lived? It was kind of, looking back on it, it was kind of ridiculous. So I think that was like borderline, I wouldn't call it abuse, but that was trauma. That was trauma for a 8-year-old kid to be lining up in the hallway, not knowing what the hell was going to happen to you. So, I guess you could say anything is traumatic. I guess it depends on the kid or how he reacts to it. But I just took this whole invisible challenge. I think people take things a little bit too seriously. And that's the thing with trying to be funny nowadays. Like I started out talking about the baggers and the employees at the store. You try to be funny and you try to shed light. It's not even about being funny. You just try to shed light on certain situations that are going on in society, and you kind of have to filter what you say. Even though comedy's supposed to be unfiltered or being funny is supposed to be unfiltered, we're in a situation now where you really have to really watch what you say. And I'm in certain cases, absolutely, there are certain racial things, and I don't get political on this podcast, and certain things should be off limits. But little funny stories with some, come on, folks. You just, you try to make a point about something, and then there's always 1 or 2 people that get offended. Everybody else laughs, and, you have 100 people listen or 200 people listen. You get 2 or 3 people that comment or say something that you offended them or something. So you're not going to please everybody, no matter where you go, whether you do a podcast, whether you write a book. And that was true with me writing the book, too. Now, my book, I've spoken about it a lot. My book is a book of about, if you add them all up, there's some really short stories and then other longer stories, about 50 stories that actually took place in a parking lot where I worked. Now, the dialogue in the book is unfiltered. I wrote what exactly was said between me and customers or what customers said to other customers. And it was a chronicle. I chronicled this every day that I worked there, and then I took the best of the stories and put them into a book. Now, I'm sure some people are going to find some of the language and some of the material in the book a little bit offensive. But again, I just chronicled what actually happened in the parking lot. So that's coming out on October 13th. I think, again, 9 out of 10 people are going to find it funny. You're going to have one person that one story is going to rub them the wrong way, or why did you use that kind of language? And in the book, and I said this to my wife the other day, there is vulgarity in the book. There's a lot of cursing or cussing, however you say it, where you're from. And most of it was by the customers. And I just quoted what they said. There were only about 3 or 4 instances in the book where I actually got vulgar or cursed at a customer. Most of it is them and coming at me with curses or coming at other people. So I wouldn't say the book is for anybody under 18. It's an adult humorous book about real life stories that happened at a courthouse parking lot in a suburb of Atlanta. And featured in that book are stories about me. I actually created a fake corporate office to field complaints from patrons. Because anywhere you go now, people want the number to the corporate office. It's a parking lot, folks. Where was there going to be a corporate office? It's a parking lot. So I would tell them the rules of the parking lot, and they wouldn't like it. And they would say, I want to speak to someone else. And I would say, there is nobody else. Now, the owners, there were owners, but they were hands off. They didn't want to get involved in the business or complaints. So they basically handed me the keys and said, it's yours. So when people started asking for a corporate phone number, I wasn't going to give them the owner's cell phone number. She didn't want to be bothered with anything. And the husband of the owner worked in another capacity in the town. He's very well known. I'm not going to tell you what he did or who he is, but he didn't want to deal with it. So I had to get creative. And in that little shack that I worked in, it was like a Home Depot size shed. It had a big door to leave, 2 windows, and I was in that 8x8. It was like a jail cell all day. She finally got me Wi-Fi in there so I wouldn't have to use up all my data to listen to music or go online or whatever, so I could bring my laptop in to look up stuff for customers, and if I wanted to watch something, which you really couldn't. But so instead of just getting Wi-Fi, she got a triple play, which is internet, phone, and cable. Now, I knew I wasn't going to watch TV all day, because you can't. I had to keep an eye on what was going on around the clock, because so many shenanigans, and that's why the book is called A Whole Lot of Shenanigans, was taking place at this parking lot. But when she told me she got a landline phone number, I thought to myself, this could be the answer to my problems. But now I knew she wasn't going to pay for a phone, so I went out to Walmart and I got a phone, and based on the paperwork that the technician, the installer, left, I got the phone number. So what I did was I called it from my cell phone, and it rang, and I knew I had a landline now. And I called the bank, and the credit card receipts, everything that printed out, there was our address, and now I had them put the phone number to that landline inside the booth. Now, I pretended to people, excuse me, that complained and wanted to speak to someone that was the corporate phone number. I said, just call the number on the receipt, or I would give them that number. So people started calling that number, and who do you think was answering the phone on the other end? The same person they dealt with 5 minutes ago. But these people were too stupid to realize it, and there's a whole more hijinks that goes on with the names that I gave them of the boss and shit that I said on the phone, so I think you'll find that funny. I gave littering customers a dose of their own medicine, where I got even with people who littered. People who tried to give me counterfeit money. You'll see how I got even with those people. There's a story of an escaped turtle, people bringing caged ferrets, a totally confused and senile cowboy waving a gun, a guy who tried to connive candy out of me for his kids that didn't exist. I read that story on one of the previous podcasts. How there was an obstructed tailpipe. That's on the cover of the book. You'll see what that's all about. Alleged racist dogs in a car. People accusing the dogs of being racist. A sabotage job interview. That was in last week's episode. How I sabotaged that woman's job interview at the courts. A woman slapping an ice cream cone out of a kid's hand. People borrowing urine from other people to pass drug tests. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And that's what the book is about. It's called A Whole Lot of Shenanigans. And those are just a few of the stories that are featured, themes of the stories that are featured in the book. And I hope you will pick that up as of October 13th on Amazon, and it'll be available on eBay. I'm going to try and have it available on various channels for you guys to pick that up. So it's definitely weird from going from the writing phase of the book, folks. I thought the writing was like the easy part. It was everything that came after the book that was, to me, more stressful and difficult. But I actually got a copy of it in my hands the other night, the proof copy, and had to make a few changes and on it, but it's just about ready to go. But having the actual book in your hand after months of typing and seeing it on a Word document and in different templates, to actually see the cover with everything assembled together, it's I guess, I'll never know what it's like to give birth, but I guess it's kind of like giving birth, where you actually see the end result of something, and it was a labor of love, and I hope that you guys find it interesting and funny, and and just more like, I think most people are going to, they'll laugh at it, but they're going to find it unbelievable that this stuff actually took place. And the book kind of wrote itself, because, there was some creative stuff that I had to put into the book, but it's mostly, I'd say 70% of it is just the dialogue and the stuff that went on in these situations that you're going to be like, I can't believe that this actually happened in public and all these people did these crazy things. So I hope you'll pick that up, and I hope you will enjoy it. So that is going to wrap this week's episode up. I hope you enjoyed our tales of Kroger, cookie tins, Christmas, practical jokes, and all that stuff. And if you don't mind, give us a review on iTunes. We're on Spotify, we're on Google Play, and we are coming to iHeartRadio as of October 10th, so that'll be another platform where you can listen to us. And as always, I thank you so much for joining us. Please share as I post the new episode. Just please click, if you listen to us through Facebook, just click the share button on the post and let your friends know about it, and spread the cheer. That's going to wrap it up. As I always say, folks, and it's truer and truer and truer and truer every week. Beware. It's a shit show out there. Thanks so much for joining us. This has been a bunch of malarkey.